Utah, guess it. I mean, it was against the Washington Wizards and the Charlotte Hornets, but a win is a win. Let's get into this. The Hoops Nerd Show. All right, before we get into the show, let's just give a shout out to our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks they're the sponsor of the show. If you go to prizepicks.com, use promo code HoopsNerd, they will match up to $100. That's free money, guys, to go use on the app. You put $5 down, they will give you $5 extra. So you want to go put the over on Lauri Markkanen or Collin Sexton, easy money. I mean, I think the over was like 1.5 threes. Sexton knocks down 3 tonight. Easy stuff. Go to Prize Picks, use promo code HoopsNerd. It's a lot of fun. Do your homework, and you'll do great. If you don't do your homework, then you might end up like me sometimes. Do your homework, and it's a lot of fun, and you do pretty darn well. All right, so the Utah Jazz get a nice win against the Charlotte Hornets. I know the Hornets made a run in this one, and it looked not so great there at the end, but I think a lot of that was the Jazz were just, taking their foot off the gas, and that's when runs tend to happen. So anyways, the one number that really surprised me, PJ Washington comes out with 43 points. He was looking like Kevin Durant out there, knocking down just absolutely everything. Look at that. He only missed 5 shots the entire game. He's a guy that I thought maybe the Jazz should look at some point, but at this point, you're good. I mean, you're getting a little redundancy having him on the roster, but there's some talent on this team. Also, Brandon Miller has pretty much looked like he should have. I mean, he goes 6 for 18 tonight. Oh my gosh, look at this. 0 for 7 from 3. Are you kidding? Maybe not. Maybe not. Let's just make a rash reaction to one game. What's he shooting from 3 for the season? I thought it was pretty good. Oh, he's doing pretty good. Although tonight did not help the percentage. He goes 0 for 7. This was all PJ Washington. Look at that. And then Nick Richards inside was pretty darn solid. 13 rebounds. So anyways, this Hornets team is terrible. Gordon Hayward doesn't play. He eats like a spicy chicken sandwich and he's out for like a week. So I don't know. But anyways, the Utah Jazz, they dominated the first half of this game. They were up by 30 something at one point. And then obviously Charlotte came back, but I don't think it's really too much to be worried about because sometimes these games honestly must get boring for players when you're up like 40. I mean, honestly, you're probably just trying to get through the game. And to their credit, Charlotte did get hot and did not stop trying. So good for them. Good for you. Pat, pat, pat. But anyways, Simone Fontecchio, he only hits 1. He did not hit his goal tonight. He plays 27 minutes in this one. 3 assists, 3 rebounds, 5 points. I would love to do a thing along... I don't know. Maybe I wouldn't, but I wouldn't be surprised if Simone Fontecchio might grade out as like the best perimeter defender. He's pretty darn solid. I guess Chris Dunn has something to say there, but after Chris Dunn, I'd say it's Simone Fontecchio maybe? He plays great defense, just a really solid player, and he's doing great things. What is his contract? Well, do we need to look at it? Yes, we brought it up, so let's look at it. I'm guessing it's up next year, and the Jazz need to look at signing him because I'm sure there's a lot of teams out there. $6 million for Simone, good for him. But yeah, he is a restricted free agent. Oh, that's nice. So the Jazz can match any offer. All right, great. So Fontecchio's probably on the Jazz next year. I would be surprised if he wasn't. And so nice of Simone to just keep developing on this team. The long-term outlook, I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know if he's starting on a championship team, but I think he's very much a nice rotation player on a championship team. Why can't he be a backup, wing? He's pretty darn nice, and the Jazz just don't have a ton of wings, and so it's nice to have him on the team. Lauri Markkanen was the best player in the game. He was just dominant. 33 points on 12 of 18 shooting. He was 7 for 12 from 3. That 3-point shooting slump is over. He takes only 2 free throws. By the way, weird officiating tonight. There were just 17 free throws taken by the Jazz in total, 21 by the Hornets. But there was a few, like when he got smacked in the face at the end of the game, they didn't even look at it. That was bizarre to me. I mean, he honestly got clubbed in the face, and typically when you get hit above the shoulders, that's a flagrant foul, right? And the refs don't even look at it. Apparently, they had an appointment at somewhere after the game they had to get to, apparently, more important than the job at hand. But Markkanen just keeps getting better and better and better. And look at this, 3 assists. He is averaging 2.5 assists and more. I mean, I think he's getting to the point now where he's going to be at 3 assists per game average after the injury. Remember? So we looked at this before last time, but when Markkanen came back from that injury, and he came in one game, was out one more after that. So it starts there. I can't remember the date. I don't want to look it up. But it's basically post-injury when he's fully healthy. He has been averaging 2.5 assists per game. It's been amazing. And look at this, 3 assists. He is just getting better and better and better at passing the ball. And all that's going to do is open things up for him. When he's shooting like this, he is such a crushing offensive player. John Collins has had quite the last 2 or 3 games. Look at this. Tonight he has a 20 and 10, 2 blocked shots as well. He is dominating these last few games. And, you know, I think that starting center spot for John Collins is pretty much locked up. He is playing so well. Now, this Jazz team, as constructed, is not going to win the title. It's not, because the defense is not good enough. But the pieces have kind of fallen into place for this team. And one of those pieces was John Collins at center, and we're just seeing just more and more improved play from Collins. He understands what his role is more and more. He's doing it better. He's scoring in a myriad of ways. He only hit 1 3 tonight. The three-point shot hasn't been quite falling for him lately. But he has been playing big time inside. And yes, it's Wizards and Hornets. They're terrible, but you should be crushing them if you're a solid NBA rotation player, and that's what he did. 20 and 10. So it's nice to see. And he does spread that floor, making life easier for everyone else. Collin Sexton was out of his mind in the first half. He slowed down in the second, but the number that really popped out to me is, look at this, 13 assists. That is crazy. Did anyone expect this type of passing from Collin Sexton to start the year? Or when we watched him to begin the year, it was just not good. He is playing just such high-level basketball. So when you consider that he scores 24 points in 35 minutes, but when you're manufacturing, 26 points minimum on 13 assists, if not more, that's crazy awesome play. Really great. KO to Omai Abaji, $2. Thank you, Thank you, DW2CB. Thank you so much. No title this year, but play to convey, yes. Absolutely, and that's what the Jazz are doing. And you know what? In honor of DW2CB, look at this. I looked at this before we started. The Jazz are up on the Lakers. Look at this. Did anyone else expect the Jazz to be tied with the Orlando Magic? I was predicting the Orlando Magic to be awesome, and they've kind of skidded lately. Their defense isn't quite as good as it was to start the year, and I don't know if injuries, I don't know what's going on with Orlando, to be honest. But they're obviously dropping a little bit. Lost 2 in a row. Utah's won 2 in a row. We're now actually, yes, we are percentage-wise tied with Orlando. And look at this, just a half game back of Miami. A half game back of Miami. So Utah is going to continue to grow here. And I think if they could just get another couple wins, maybe they can leapfrog these guys and get completely out of the lottery. So there is absolutely zero chance of not conveying the pick, which is what I would personally like, because 2.4% is very slim, but that's still scary. Yes, 0.5% chance to win the number 1 overall pick. We don't want it. We don't want it. Even the number 1 pick, Alex Sarr, probably in this draft, probably the number 1 pick. Yeah, well, he'd be pretty nice. I'm not gonna lie. He's like a taller. He would be kind of nice, but that's it. Otherwise, would much rather not convey the pick. You know, if you can get number 1 overall pick, maybe the Jazz trade out of. No, they would probably take it. But Utah, let's see. If I just want them to get completely out, because honestly, I don't want them to use their pick. We have to convey it to OKC. It's just got to happen. So it's nice to see the Jazz get another win, stomp the Hornets, who, by the way, I believe they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves recently. So these games aren't always a given. So let's see. We talked about Collin Sexton. Chris Dunn, It's crazy. I didn't realize he only played 16 minutes. It felt like his presence on the floor was just that imposing. I mean, 16 minutes is actually, that's kind of the craziest stat of the night outside of the 13 stats for Collin Sexton, because he just crushed that team with his defense, his leadership, everything he does on the floor. Incredible. KO to Omai Abaji, $2 more. Thank you so much, my friend. If Jazz equal playoffs, Will equals coach of the year. Hardy Boys beat LA. I agree. If the Jazz make the playoffs, and I know they had that 3-game skid, which kind of, cooled down a lot of people's uh, attention and fire for this team. But guess what? Now they're all of a sudden on a 2-game winning streak. And now that they've kind of figured out their offense again, there's some weird vibes with the bench still, and that's going to continue. And we're going to go over trades, by the way, trade rumors, and I'm going to just show them to you. If you're not reading SLC Dunk, shame on you, but they're there to read. I work on them. I write them. I put them up. I hit publish. My editor says, "Hey, James, do more." And I say, "Okay, managing editor, I'll do more." But anyways, if you're not, you're missing out because they're all there. Christian House money to Haas. Thank you, my friend. Great team win. Had to pick up the slack in the end. $5 is so generous. Thank you so much, Christian. House money. Yes. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I think they let the gas off, and then it's frustrating when they get that close. I mean, they had such a huge lead and were playing so well in the first half. I think the Hornets were in just kind of shell shock a little bit with how well the Jazz were scoring, and their defense was just putrid. The funny thing is that it's really a defensive problem with the Jazz right now. It really comes down to defense. It's not offense, because even during that run with the Hornets did go on a pretty big run, but when the Jazz brought in the starters, they scored, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The Jazz bench has bad vibes. It just does. It's not good, and I think it's completely trade rumor related, and that's, but it was also the starters that kind of let the Hornets back in as well, the game. They just weren't playing very good defense, and when you do that, NBA teams in this league have so much talent, and they will get momentum. Momentum's a real thing. It really is. Teams start hitting shots, they get confident, they get loose, they start making better plays, they start shooting with confidence. And then the other effect of the momentum of something like that is the team that's up front starts to get really tight and starts making mistakes and starts not moving the ball around and getting worried about fouling and things like that. And it's just like a snowball effect. It definitely happened tonight. Let's see. But anyways, Chris Dunn was 3 for 4 from the field. He was 1 for 1 from 3, 6 assists in 16 minutes. I sometimes wonder why he plays only 16. And I don't know if it's to give him rest for the next game, but 6 assists, 4 rebounds, and just stuffing the stat sheet. 1 steal, 1 block, only 1 turnover. Just pretty awesome stuff from Chris Dunn. He's so great. And all these trade rumors, we don't see Chris Dunn. And I think it's because the Jazz love what he brings, obviously on the court, because he's a winning player, but his leadership and personality and just energy is really good, and it really helps out some of these teams. And you know what? Chris Dunn is the perfect guy to have on this team, as the Jazz will bring in more rookies, because guess what? They're going to bring in more and more. And one thing I'm thinking with these trade rumors that are coming up, is I think the Jazz are going to trade into this draft. I actually think they could get into the top 10 with one of their veterans, possibly this trade deadline. Maybe, there might be a pick from like one of these different, although I guess the teams that are interested aren't quite as high, so maybe not. But I think the Jazz might be able to get into this draft, or at least get a pick in a later draft, a good pick. We'll see what the Jazz do, but it wouldn't be a bad thing for this Jazz to get another young player to start playing, especially if they can start moving off some of these veteran players, the THTs, the Kelly Olynyk's, and some of these guys, so that they can clear room for the Taylor Hendricks, the Keontae Georges to play and, work through their mistakes, play well, and get better, because that's the future of this team. Those guys need to get better. But Chris Dunn is one of those guys that's going to be perfectly happy mentoring those players, and it's amazing. And guess what? He's just a really good player who comes on the floor and helps you win games. So really nice to see. Jordan Clarkson, 6 for 15 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3. The shot was not falling tonight. He still managed to shoot 15 shots, though. But you know what? JC is the one that's in trade rumors right now, and I'm sure the Jazz are okay with him taking shots because they'd like to up his value, to be honest. So they're perfectly fine with that. 31 minutes. I'm sure they didn't want to play him 31 minutes just because of the wanting to get players rest and whatnot. But you know what? I'm fine with the shots he's taking. I know I lost my mind last show over some things that are pissing me off and they're still bugging me, but I'm at peace and I can kind of see what the Jazz are doing. Let's exit this out. Let's see. We'll go through each player and then we'll get to trade rumors. How about that? Walker Kessler, 16 minutes tonight, 5 for 6 from the field. Let's see. He scores 10 points. He had 3 block shots. It's crazy how many blocks he gets. One of the things I think Walker Kessler needs to learn is just more toughness. I think he just needs to flat out be a tougher player. I don't know how else to describe it. He just needs to bring on dominance on the floor. I think he's in his head a little bit about who he is as a player with shooting and things like that. But you know what? He doesn't have to be an elite shooter to be effective. You know what makes him an elite player is if he goes in and just crushes it on offensive boards. And in a way, he kind of did that. Look at this. Although, actually, no, he didn't. Just 1 offensive rebound. You'd like to see him. I bet you he plays more minutes if he gets more offensive rebounds. If Walker Kessler is going on there and just absolutely dominating on the offensive boards and protecting the rim on the other end, then I think he plays more. But, you'll look at the advanced numbers, and I'm sure they're great. I mean, he gets 3 block shots, 4 rebounds. If you're just putting this game into an algorithm, a math equation that gives you some sort of rating, I'm sure it comes out pretty good. But when you watch these games, there are just times where you're like, man, Walker, you could just crush some of these guys. And, he doesn't have to block every single shot and get every single rebound. But there's just times where it just looks like you need just a little bit more juice. I want more juice from Kessler because we know how good he can be. It just seems like there's a mental thing going on. Same thing going on with Keontae George. It's tough being a rookie and trying to earn your way on the floor when there might be other side motivations for a team, to be honest. There's a lot of things that might be just completely out of their control. But regardless, what you have to control is what you can control. What can I control in this situation? There's things I can't. Craziness around me, trade deadline, personality conflict, all sorts of things that go on during an NBA season. What you need to control is what you're doing while you're on the floor and how do I dominate this possession I'm playing right now. Possession by possession, quarter by quarter, game by game. How do you slow things down and just start crushing it every little bit? That's just what I want to see from him. And he'll play more minutes. Ochai Agbaji got a little bit of extended run, a tiny bit. It was interesting that Will Hardy had him running with the starters near the at the end of the game to slow the Hornets, and it looked pretty decent. He hit a corner 3. I don't know what to think of this season from Ochai. He gets 2 assists, 2 rebounds, 5 points. I don't know what to think. He's one of the most athletic guys you'll ever see. He's truly just an athletic monster. But there's just some times where it's very passive. And that may not be completely his fault for the same reasons I was mad last show. 2 for 5. There's just like a little passivity, however you say that, with him. And I want him to be more assertive. And the more he does, the better the things are. Like that one play where he drove to the basket, he gave this awesome assist to, I think it was Kessler. I can't remember, but it was Kessler. It was nice. I just want to see more of that. More aggression, less passive play. Keontae George plays less minutes tonight. I noticed he got in later, and I don't know if it's because he's in his head about things. I'm sure it is. Things are not going very well for him lately. But when he was on the floor tonight, he played pretty decent. He gets 5 free throws. Those were all on those drives. Shot the ball pretty decent. I mean, this is just 12 minutes, so I'm not going to nitpick too much on just 12 minutes. And he does get the 1 assist. But right now, with trade deadline looming, there's stuff going on that is just, it makes it impossible to kind of analyze what's going on. Honestly, we don't even need to talk about Keontae that much because of what is happening. It is the Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk show with the bench, and the Jazz are trying to trade them. And for now, it's going to be a little rough. And that's the story. Kelly Olynyk has nearly got a triple-double tonight. Look at this. He had 9 rebounds, 8 assists, 6 points. He's played really well the last 2 games against the Wizards and the Hornets, and they're terrible, but you do got to give credit. He has played well. Okay, should we get in the trade rumors? Because Olynyk's playing well, and he's a really good player. And there should be teams out there interested in getting him because he can help a lot of teams win. Now, this is the one from Tony Jones, and let me pull up SLC Dunk. Let's pull this up. Oh, look at that. Who wrote that? Oh, that's Calvin. Good job, Calvin. Oh, James Hansen wrote this trade rumor. So this is the one from Tony Jones. Tony Jones, if you haven't read it, go to The Athletic, read his stuff. It's great. You should be following him on Twitter as well. Great follow. But this is what the important line from the story. The NBA trade deadline is less than 2 weeks away, and the phones for the Utah Jazz have been ringing a lot. So the Jazz are getting calls about their players, which is good for the Jazz if they're looking to make a move. And he says, this makes sense. The Jazz have short-term contracts. The talent and assets on their roster make them attractive to the rest of the league. They have the front office that isn't afraid or won't be hesitant to make a move if they deem that the move is right for the franchise. So the Jazz are ready to make deals. And league sources indicate that Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk are garnering the most interest. All right. So they are the players that teams are calling about. They know that they're available. And so when you see stat lines like this, 17 minutes for Olynyk, but he's dominating possessions. Jordan Clarkson's taking 15 shots. They are being showcased. Pretty much. You can just, that's what's going on. And so while they're being showcased and getting possessions and running the show, that means players like Walker Kessler, Keontae George, and Ochai Agbaji are kind of in the back seat for now, right? Once they get moved, things will change. It will get interesting because you'll have things like Taylor Hendricks coming with the team and playing. And one thing we learned from Tim McMahon, this was one, did I write one about this? I'm pretty sure I did. I've written so many things about this. Let's see, just to be sure. Let's see. No, I don't think I did. Well, maybe it was this one. Look, this was a rumor, same thing. Kelly Olynyk, Jordan Clarkson on the trade block for the Utah Jazz. This was from Mark Stein. Kelly Olynyk and Jordan Clarkson are the Jazz veterans most frequently mentioned. This was, look at that, January 16th. That's 11 days ago. So this has been going on. So they are absolutely, the players know about it. And that's where some of these bad vibes come from. I think who was it? Was it Doc Rivers on the Bill Simmons podcast? It might have been somewhere else. It might have been Tim Legler with Zach Lowe. I can't remember exactly, but just talking about how hard it is when you're on a team and you don't know if you're getting traded tomorrow. So to give some slack to Kelly Olynyk, who I was really mad at last show. He doesn't know where he's playing tomorrow. He's likely getting traded, and that's got to be hard. And I'm sure he's not super interested in helping out a rookie on a team he's not going to be playing for next year. Why would Kelly Olynyk or Jordan Clarkson be all that invested in Keontae George if they're not going to be on the team next year, which sounds kind of pretty much very likely they will not be, right? So anyways, that's the other one. The other interesting the other trade rumor was the Jazz have some interest in DeJounte Murray, and they called Charlotte about Miles Bridges, which makes me frustrated. I mean, they called, doesn't mean they're going to trade for him. And I would hate that if the Jazz traded for Miles Bridges. But the one that's interesting is DeJounte Murray. This was from Jake Fisher. By the way, if you're not following Jake Fisher on Twitter, you should. He is kind of the best of the best with the rumors and stuff. And he has been proven right so many times. So follow Jake Fisher. When he speaks, listen, because it is like you get to be the fly on the wall a little bit. But anyways, from Fisher, he says the Utah Jazz are being considered both a buyer and seller at this junction, with ball handlers Jordan Clarkson, Collin, Sexton, and Talen Horton-Tucker considered available for trade. So these are all the players that are available for trade if you want to. Now, the question with these is, what is Danny Ainge charging? What is the cost? If you want to trade for Collin Sexton, I don't know what that is, because he started off the year terribly. He's now playing like an all-star. So I'm not sure what that trade value is. But it's certainly not going to be free. That's for sure, because if you trade for Collin Sexton, you also get him for 2 years. And by the way, and that was the one thing that was interesting, is when we go back down here, look, there are teams that we've found. The Lakers are interested in Collin Sexton. So Dave McMenamin, he's legit. You can go watch. You can go to SLC Dunk and watch that video. We're not going to watch it here, but they are interested in Collin Sexton. So who is interested in Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk then? And I think you guys might have seen it already. Spoiler alert, it's probably already here. New York Knicks. Oh, did we already go here? It's like, oh, by the way, I already told you. The Knicks are interested in them. And who would it be for? Well, Quentin Grimes and probably a pick. This is my prediction. Should we do trade predictions? Members, if you're a member of the channel, put your trade predictions in the chat. Here's my prediction. I was going to say, before I do this, Julius Randle has a dislocated shoulder for the Knicks. So the Knicks and the Jazz are already talking. They now miss out on Julius Randle, who's been playing well for them. Does that mean maybe they start looking at Kelly Olynyk for a playoff run? Kelly Olynyk's contract expires next year, so they could trade for him. And then if they wanted to re-sign him, they could, or they could just let him go. But maybe because Julius Randle just got hurt pretty severely, I mean, separated shoulder, if it requires surgery, I don't know, maybe he can play through it, but that usually means end of the season because you usually need surgery. But anyways, maybe the Knicks will come to the Jazz, because you know who would be a nice replacement for Randle? He's not quite as good as Randle, at least defensively, but offensively, in some ways, he's better with his shooting and stuff. Kelly Olynyk. And so if the Jazz are interested in Quentin Grimes and a pick, and they'll send them Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk, I mean, come on. That's kind of a perfect fit. The question is, what will the Jazz charge them? Can the Jazz get maybe a couple picks? Like a pick for one and a pick for the other? And the Jazz are going to have to take back Evan Fournier. In fact, let's see here. Let's look at their contracts here. Good old spot track, though, by the way. So the one that's nice is Evan Fournier, because he expires. He is dead money. He does not play. This is one of the worst contracts in the NBA for the last few years. They bring on OG Anunoby, and they're going to want to re-sign him. So something like bringing on Olynyk that they could play for the playoffs and let him fall off so they could re-sign Anunoby would be pretty nice for them. But do the Jazz ask for someone back that maybe that doesn't play for them quite as much? Maybe the Jazz, obviously Quentin Grimes, but if the Jazz are trading Clarkson and, in fact, let's just do a trade machine together, should we? Let me know in the chat who you want to trade. I think this Fanspo one's pretty good. So let's do Team 1, Utah Jazz. My beloved Utah Jazz with, you know who my second favorite team is? It's actually the Knicks. Grandpa Hansen, Grandpa Hoops Nerd, my grandpa, rest in peace, was a Knicks fan. My earliest basketball argument memory is my dad arguing and yelling at my grandpa and my dad yelling at each other, because if you remember, Karl Malone elbowed Patrick Ewing in the face and drew blood, and my grandpa and my dad were arguing about the angle of Karl Malone's elbow. Grandpa was like, it was like this, he was trying to kill him, and my dad was like, no, he was just raising his arm, and your arm sometimes bends. And that was the argument. Probably the silliest argument I've ever heard. But anyways, let's say the Knicks, at the very least, they want Jordan Clarkson. So we're trading Jordan Clarkson to the Knicks. Okay, I got it. Thanks. Got it. Thanks. I've been here before. So we're trading Jordan Clarkson to the Knicks. The Jazz want Quentin Grimes, trade to the Jazz, and to make the salaries work, Evan Fournier. Where's Evan Fournier on here? Is it in? It's numerical order here. Yep, there we go. So look, and if you try this, boom, works. That's the trade. The question is, what are the picks? The Knicks are going to have to give the pick to the Jazz. Stop telling me what to do. They're going to have to give the Jazz a pick. The question is, that's probably what they're discussing right now is, what is that pick? You know? And we know with Danny that he likes to stick to his guns. And if he says a certain player is this amount, that's what he's going to do. So, and one thing that I'm trying to remember, and I'm going to, when it's February 8th is trade deadline, Woj said that he predicts most of the trades are going to happen on trade deadline day. And it really is an effective way to get these things to happen. Utah's probably looking to see if they can get anything else. Like we read, the Jazz are getting a ton of calls. Tony Jones talked about that. Mark Stein's talked about that. Jake Fisher has mentioned that. The Jazz are getting a ton of calls, and so they're going to make sure they get the best deal. It's just like last year with Donovan Mitchell. Utah had been talking with the Knicks all summer. Remember, Donovan didn't get traded till like early September. That was crazy. We spent all summer not knowing if Donovan Mitchell would get traded. And finally, Danny Ainge just told the Knicks, like, I'm sick of this. You do not have the leverage. I have a better deal elsewhere. And he went and got a better deal. And thank goodness he did, because now we have Lauri Markkanen. So, someone like me who wants this trade to just happen, you might be able to get something better. Danny Ainge proved that. Just wait, and you might get something better. And if not, the trade is here. And if you can get a pick, great. Utah is also probably interested in this because Quentin Grimes is a player that you can develop. He's not shooting it very well this year. But Evan Fournier that has a player as a team option next year. The Jazz will just cut him, and that's empty money. So you get rid of this money from Jordan Clarkson. $23 million is a lot, but this drops to like $14 million the next 2 years. So it's actually a very manageable contract. I'm sure the Knicks would be happy about that because that will allow them to get some money. Look, so if it goes to 14, you get rid of 20. That gives them $6 extra million. They can go to OG Anunoby to re-sign him. So there are a lot of things about this that make sense. This is my prediction, but you never know. Someone else might come and swoop in. Now, the thing that makes this interesting is Julius Randle just got his shoulder separated. So what would we have to do? Kelly Olynyk makes $12 million. So now at this point, doesn't work. This trade would result in the Knicks crossing the tax apron of 172 while hard capped. Therefore, this trade is not possible. Remove. Oh, is it only $876K? Let's see. So let's try this. Maybe there's a player they're not too worried about. Maybe they can just throw some change. Look at this. Malachi Flynn, trade to the Jazz. And who cares? This is just filler. Fails. Because the Jazz are giving, let's see, the Jazz are giving 35. You've got to get more. That's what makes this interesting. It may not happen, guys. Let's see. Whoops, crap. So anyways, I don't know if they'll do it. They might not have the means to get Kelly Olynyk. They would probably have to bring in a third guy. But that's my one prediction. Now, the other one is Collin Sexton is available. If you want him, that's the crazy trade rumor. Collin Sexton's on the trade block. And I think Tony Jones said that too, actually. Did he? Okay. League sources indicate that Jordan Clarkson and Kelly Olynyk are garnering the most interest. This is independent of star Lauri Markkanen, who is coveted around the league, but from a Jazz perspective, is as close to an untouchable as a player can get. Not untouchable, but as close to untouchable as could be. And I don't think he's going to get traded. Man, that sucks for them. They lost Julius Randle. Anyways, I think Collin Sexton, I think someone out there is going to try to get him because I think the Jazz the Jazz want to convey the pick. And so if you trade Collin Sexton, it's going to have to be for something nice because I think Utah wants to keep him. I wouldn't be surprised. Okay, this is my prediction. I don't think the Jazz trade him at trade deadline because I do think that unless someone throws a crazy offer at them, if someone comes and says like, we're going to give you like 3 unprotected firsts for Collin Sexton, you do it because that's crazy, you know? But I think they would probably much rather trade Collin Sexton this offseason than next year see where you're at contract wise. The Jazz are going to renegotiate Lauri Markkanen's deal for next year, and then they are going to give him a max the following year, as they should. My prediction for what they're going to do next year, I think they want to develop their players. I think they do. I think they wanted the main goal this year was to make sure that Oklahoma City was making their pick. By the way, the funniest thing ever is it's not a very good draft, and the higher the Jazz go, the better it gets. The pettier it gets too, by the way. If the Jazz can kind of get into this range in a terrible draft, give them like the 18th pick in a bad draft, that's like nothing. And in some ways, I wouldn't be surprised if Oklahoma City is hoping the Jazz rise. Why is that? Because this is money that is coming onto their books. One reason why the Jazz probably don't really care to get a pick in this draft is it's not a very good draft. I'm sure there's and I've heard from people that there's players in this area that are pretty good. Like this, so I can't remember her name. She's online. She's a draft person. She had, what's his name? He's Williams. Where is he? Cody Williams. She has him number 1 overall. That's what's crazy about this draft is there is no clear number 1 pick. I think the majority of people have kind of leaned on Alexander Sarr, which I think I would make him the pick too. With what he does and at his size, I mean, the potential is there to be really nice. Someone like Reisiker is nice. There's nice players, but the thing is Cody Williams, by the way, brother of Jalen Williams on Oklahoma City, and we see how good he is. So you can see why some people might think, oh, maybe take a shot. And he's been kind of balling. Look at that, 6'8" as well. So he's an interesting prospect. But the thing is the Jazz aren't even going to be bad enough to get Cody Williams or any of these top 10 players. And so if you're getting this pick to Oklahoma City, what the thing is Utah has a lot of money to worry about with Lauri Markkanen. They would like to stay under the tax apron because they don't want to be penalized. They were nearly there. That was one of the reasons why they made the Donovan Mitchell trade, by the way, and the Rudy Gobert trade, is they were going to be a super tax team, and they did not want to. For a team that was not going to win a title, they did not want to be under that tax apron. When you make these first-round picks, this is mandatory contracts, and Alexander Sarr is going to make like $10 million a year. That is 10 million. It's like 8 to 10 on the books immediately. I mean, the Jazz are paying, let's see. Let's go to the salaries. Thank you, Spot Track. You look at Taylor Hendricks, it is mandatory 5.5 million, and this is like it scales down. This is like 10 million if you're the number 1 overall pick. And in a bad draft, that's pretty brutal. Because, I think Alexander Sarr has potential to be great, but he could also suck. What if he's not good? That's 10 million on the books for 4 years of a player that's developing that you don't know if, maybe he's amazing. I don't know. I think he has a chance to be really good, but there's also the chance he's really bad. In a draft like this where you're taking a prospect, sometimes it's a little bit of crapshoot. And you're putting like 5.5 million on the number 9 pick. Up here, you're getting down, like, I think Keontae makes about 2 million, 2.5, maybe 3. So, if we're giving them like the 14th pick, that's 4 or 5 million on the books. And the Jazz probably don't want that, especially if they think it's just like a prospect that's never going to be much. That's tough to bring on your books. That's tough. So it's just another reason why the Jazz want to convey this pick. Now, if it was like last year's draft where you get someone like Keontae George at 16, you're more than happy to bring on that player. And next year's draft is absolutely dope. Next year's draft has top-heavy, just covetable players. Just absolutely incredible. In fact, do they have the 2025? Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they do. I don't think they do. Oh, but it's looking so nice. It's looking so nice. And so I think the Jazz are going to absolutely clear the deck even more next year. of veterans. They're going to keep Lauri Markkanen. They may keep John Collins because I don't know if someone's trading for that contract. But you know what? John Collins has been playing pretty well. And John Collins plays a style of play that they want to learn. So here's who I think. Look, this is going big picture tonight. I didn't even know. I was like tired tonight. I did not know if I was going to go long. And now we're going on minute 40. We're going big picture, baby. Here's who I think's on the team. Simone Fontecchio, probably on the team. Lauri Markkanen, definitely on the team. Unless someone throws, bonkers Rudy Gobert type offer, there he's staying on the team. John Collins, I think he's going to be on the team. Why? Because he plays a style of play I think the Jazz want. I think they like having a 5-out system that opens the floor because so much of that has been what's been helping players like Collin Sexton do so well. I think Collin Sexton either gets traded at this trade deadline, but more likely this upcoming offseason. Chris Dunn, I think, is on the team because of leadership. I think he's the type of mentor you want teaching your young players. Utah has 3 picks in the 2025 draft, the one following this year, and that's great because it's a great draft. That's 3 chances for the Jazz to win. Wolves might be pretty darn good that next year. They may not even have Mike Conley next year because of their contract situation. And the Cavs are likely losing Donovan Mitchell to Miami or New York at maybe next year. So really great. I would just love that. So anyways, Chris Dunn, that you want him as a mentor. Jordan Clarkson's getting traded at some point. He is going, and I bet it's this trade deadline. Walker Kessler is still someone the Jazz want to develop, and so I'm sure he's on the team next year. But some of the things that people have said, if you didn't hear the chat between the different Jazz beat writers, they mentioned that Walker Kessler is not going to hold up a trade. If there's a big time trade the Jazz want to make and another team is really big on Walker Kessler and it's a trade the Jazz really want to do, then Kessler is not going to hold it up. But it's only in a situation like that. Otherwise, the Jazz would like to keep him and develop him because he's a good player and he's really young and he has a chance to become really, really nice. Ochai Agbaji, I think, will be on the team next year. But I think it's the same story as with Walker Kessler. If there's a team that wants to throw a big-time trade to Utah and they want Ochai Agbaji, I don't think the Jazz are going to say, no, we would not like Luka Doncic because we want to keep Ochai. You're like, okay, you can have him, And I'm not saying that's something the Jazz are going to do. But if there's something the Jazz would really like to make happen, Ochai, I'm sure, is fine. They're fine putting him in the trade. Keontae George is going to be on the Jazz next year, and he's likely going to get big-time run. Kelly Olynyk, not going to be on the Jazz next year is my prediction. Taylor Horton-Tucker, no as well. Luka Samanic, no as well. And Omer might be, but he's probably going to go out and try to get the most money possible. I can't remember if his contract is 2 years. What is his contract? $2.8 million. Non-guaranteed next year. So he's going to be on the Jazz likely, just as depth. $2.6 million is very, very cheap. And as a third center, pretty solid. So that's who's on the team. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't know. Agree? Disagree? Let me know in the comments. And we don't have to do the draft because we're going to convey our pick. We are going to convey our pick. Okay, let's play the music. Guys, thanks for being at the show tonight. It was really fun. I hope you enjoyed it. Let's see here. We need to give a shout out to our All-Stars. By the way, if you're a Jazz fan and you haven't subscribed already and you're still here, subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support, hit the button below and join. You can be a part of the chat and all the fun and festivities. But we got to give a shout out to our All-Stars. These are the ones supporting the channel the most, and I appreciate all my members. Thank you so much for your support, but we especially give a shout out to our All-Stars. Let's give a shout out to Dirty Jazz Car Wash Channel, Just Buckets, JB, Baby Elliott Matson, Christian House Money to Haas, The Outlaw, Jesse James Nelson, All the Josh You Need, Just Josh in Your Pod, Ryan Perry, The Legend, Ezekiel Raicibe, The Man from Down Under, Yes, Jake C. Can, See Ya, Lexa Later, Built Ford Tough, Alexander Tufts, Jorge Arrizaga, mi amigo de abajo, Jordan the Goat Best Roll, TGD, Total Game Domination, Tyson Price, The Price is Right, Austin R. Grant, Editor Extraordinaire, KO to Omai Abaji, Patrick Kubo, The Connoisseur, and Robert Hall of Fame. DWCB. Darren Williams, Carlos Boozer. I forgot to put it in there. There you go. Like I said, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. I will talk to you next time.